living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, welcome back to the channel that does the stupidity what Omni-Man did to the Flaxen homeworld. Thank you once again everyone for joining for another Flat Earth debate. I've got, what day is it today? It's Friday, right? So I've got today and tomorrow, and then I'm on holiday on Sunday for a week. I've got this debate today with Shane St. Pierre, who you've probably seen on MC Toons a couple of times. Tomorrow, possible with Dave Santiago, and I'll have an episode of Flerfs Idiots out as I go away. That's a lot to get done before holiday. Anyway, tonight we're talking with someone, like I said, who's been on MC Toons a couple of times, recently had a debate with Professor Phil Bell, and I brought him over here to see if we can help get him out of this flat earth delusion. Shane, hello, welcome to the channel, how are you doing?
Hey guys, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, man.
No worries.
I've watched you for a long time. I've seen a couple of videos, never thought I'd be in this show.
Oh, cool.
Here we are.
So how long have you been doing the flat earth thing?
I mean, maybe 8 months, 9 months total.
Did you know about me before you became a flat earther, or just since?
No.
Just since.
So only when you learn flat earth do you find the flat earth debunking people, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to say hello in the chat to Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, who somehow has turned up on my channel. I don't know when you decided to resubscribe, but yeah, I've destroyed you in debate many times. Hi. Yeah, so 8 months, so you're still pretty new. Do you have a Papa Flerf? Is there any particular flat earther that you follow?
Well, I mean, the Weiss interviews were a big thing. Watching people go on like shows that you happen to watch, all of a sudden do an episode where David Weiss comes on and you go, "What is this? What is this now? What are you talking about?" And then 8 or 9 of those, and you're like, "All right, well, let me look into this." I guess that's sort of how it happened to me. But I wouldn't say Papa anyone. I don't really follow people, man.
David Weiss, right? So it's based on a complete misunderstanding and straw man of anything related to the globe.
He certainly has his talking points that he hits in order on every interview. Like
yeah, I know. That was how I was able to perfectly prepare for Professor Dave for his debate against
that one too. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I wrote Professor Dave like a 20-page document of all of Durf's arguments, because he does have his script and all of them are very easily debunked. So when you say that it's someone like Durf that's brought you to the flat Earth, unfortunately, that means that you've fallen for a con, Shane. And I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but you've been brainwashed by a con man. Okay. David Weiss is a con man. He knows the Earth isn't flat. He does it to make money and no other reason. He's been
the same thing about you. It's pretty funny.
He's been debunked so many times, though. He's been debunked so many times. There's no way he can still think that the Earth is flat. He is a con man. He pushes lies for a living. And that was perfectly exposed with Professor Dave's debate against him. And so, I'm sorry to be blunt, but I hope to show you today why I'm saying that you've been brainwashed, especially by a con man, because everything he says is so easily debunked. What is your favorite talking point? The main thing that kind of made you think that the Earth is flat. And
so, approaching it from the perspective of a talking point or a debater, or even trying to convince someone else, is totally new to me, right? That just since McToon invited me on our MC Toon invited me on the first day, hadn't really thought about that perspective. So that was, since then I've been preparing and reorganizing. But to me, it's not so much the talking point, it's the two observations that I found that I looked at and went, and then retroactively re-examined all the other observations that I made, like the sun, the local sun appearing not 93 million miles away, interacting with clouds, doing some fun things, and the stars around, perfect circular motion around Polaris, which people have, debunked to me many times, but I still argue that the way I see them, the science you're offering as explanation doesn't quite satisfy my expectations. So that's where I'm at.
So it's the observation of the sun and the stars are your main points.
The local sun, yeah. Yep.
Right, cool. So thing is, the sun isn't local, and this is very, very easily demonstrated because it doesn't change in angular size throughout the day, which it would have to do if it was local. Do you have a figure? How high?
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah.
No, above 73 miles.
Well,
But below,
yeah, it would
below
definitely.
93 million. How's that?
Do we have anything in between that? You know, what would you say is your upper limit of how far
we
away
can
it
call it
is?
maybe 100, 90 to 100 miles, I think is reasonable.
Oh,
Straight up.
really? Oofed.
Hmm.
I mean, that's very easy to disprove. 100 miles. Basic trigonometry could disprove that, which I'm pretty sure Professor Bell went through with you, didn't he?
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
But doesn't change my observation the way I see it, right? Like, how would clouds be in front of and behind this object
Well,
that's supposedly not in our local atmosphere?
you say why are clouds in front of it and behind it and stuff, but then I could ask you the question of why is the sun in front of this pole?
So I was on MC Tune's Discord, and one of his wonderful lieutenants had a nice long chat with me, a good long chat about this. And this is one of the things he brought up when I said this, right? He said, well, this is just the same thing. And I said, that's totally different. That's just what, a light in front of a telephone pole? So
Well,
it
no,
appears the rays
the light's
are
behind the
circling it from
telephone
afar?
pole.
Right.
The light's behind the telephone pole. You know,
Right,
whether the
right.
sun
Sorry.
is 100 miles or 93 million miles, the sun is behind that telephone pole. But does it look like it's in front of it?
No.
But you can see it
It
through
looks
it.
like the little bit of the light encircled it in the middle, right? So it came around like this almost. So it blocks out the middle of the little portion of the middle of it.
Yeah, but
That's what I
you
see.
can see literally through it. You can see the sun, which would indicate that the light
Well, you can
would
see
be
the
in
rays
front of
from the
it.
sun, right? You can't see the
Uh,
sun anywhere in there. All you see is the light,
But it's the
technically.
same thing when you see the sun apparently in the clouds or with you know clouds apparently behind it. It's just because the
Well, it's
way
not. We
that
actually see the
cameras and
sun in
eyes
mine.
see that
We see the circle, right? We don't see the circle there.
we see the light from the sun, and the light appears
Right.
to be in front of
Exactly.
this pole. And when you see what appears to be the sun with a cloud, you know, behind the sun, it's the same thing. It's the fact that the sun is so bright that it overpowers the rest of it. And you know, the way that you would change that is to use a camera where you can, you know, change the amount of light that's coming in, exposure and stuff, so to see the proper things. Which is why the best way to actually look at the sun is by taking away problems like this, and that's done by taking away the
Mm.
glare. And like I said to you earlier, if the sun, do you agree that if the sun was small and local, that it would have to change from your perspective in angular size throughout the day?
Yes.
Right. So when you look at the sun throughout the day, when you're just looking at it with your eyes, it can look like it changes size, but that's because it's glare, because it's so powerful. What you need to do is remove most of the light so you can actually see what's going on. And then
Mm.
when you do that, you look at through, say, a solar filter, which removes way over 99% of the light, so you can actually see the proper shape of the sun. You can see throughout the day that the sun doesn't change size at all. At 100 miles, we're saying a maximum of 100 miles, the sun would have to increase and decrease in size as it goes past you by a factor of like 20, maybe even more. You know,
Mm.
as it gets far away from you, it would have to be literally tiny, and as it gets close to you, it would be extremely big. But that doesn't happen. Do you want to see a video of the sun throughout the day with a solar filter on?
Sure. And then I can show a video as well.
Yeah, sure. Let
Sweet.
me just get this up. That's what she said.
See, that's funny. Genuinely funny.
My wife just sighs when I say those kind of jokes.
Oh, dude, sorry, Riley. I didn't know you were there. I told you. Hit my dog in the face.
Sorry, I keep meaning to reorganize my files and.
Is this like a time lapse of the sun? Showing
Yeah,
that it
throughout
doesn't change the angular perspective, or
Yeah, throughout the day. Where's it gone? Sorry, I have totally lost my... Oh, bloody hell, this unplugged the thing, that's why. Right. Sorry, bear me one sec. I have totally lost all my files. Something's wrong with my USB. Won't connect to my drive. Sorry guys, talk amongst yourself. Give me a sec. I'm trying to find the video on the channel now, but it doesn't seem to be on the channel where I got it from originally. Oh, goodness me. Do you want to show your video first? And we'll have a look at that one while I'm trying to find mine. All right, so I'll turn on screen share. There you
go. All right. Get rid of this. Well, you say, so it has to change angular size, and I think it does depending on conditions and the temperature and the density
well,
of
yeah,
the atmosphere.
that's the point. Depending on conditions, when you look at it through the atmosphere, right? Sorry, one second. Let me just put this up on screen so people can see. All right, so will you talk us through what we're seeing on yours?
Sure. So this looks like a non-giant helio gas body 93 million miles away. It looks like it's right here. It looks like it's getting further away, smaller as the further it goes. As you can see, it has local effects right near the clouds that it's near. You can see the sunspot where it's hotter than around it.
Right.
And it doesn't look like... Yeah, to me, these are just things go against the things that I were taught.
First of all, just take that back a little bit. So you would say here that the sun is sinking into the clouds, right?
I would say it's getting further and further away to appear to be sinking, yeah.
So is it in line with the clouds, or is it still above the clouds there?
So I think this is one that catches it above and then below as it goes further and further away.
Right. So if it's below the clouds, then the clouds would have to be 90 to 100 miles high, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, clouds aren't that high.
How hot the clouds, because
clouds aren't anywhere near that high.
I know that.
Right. Just take that video back just a little bit for me. Okay, I want you to pay attention to those clouds in the distance where it appears that they are being lit from beneath by the sun.
Well, there's clouds that appear lit behind it.
Yeah, but I want you to concentrate on the clouds that appear to be lit from beneath. There is light on the bottom of the clouds and not on the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is geometrically impossible for a sun that is 90 to 100 miles high, because I can assure you clouds are not that high. anywhere near that high. They are definitely not 90 to 100 miles high, especially not standard weather clouds like that, right?
But I have no idea if that's how high it is, right? I was guessing.
We see there that the sun clearly appears to be lighting the bottom of that cloud, which would indicate that if the sun is small and local, it has to be below those clouds. But clouds aren't ever that high if the sun is 90 to 100 miles high. So the sun would have to be, the 30,000 feet that we find clouds like this.
Well, here's one where it's definitely below the clouds, apparently.
Exactly.
Right?
So if it's small and local, what that video is showing is that it is below the clouds, and that looks like average cruising altitude of a plane, which is around 30,000 feet.
Right there. Can we tell from that? I can't tell. I'm not a pilot.
Yeah, about 30,000 feet, right?
Okay.
So, that would mean that the sun would have to be below 30,000 feet, which we know that's not the case, right?
Right, but here's an example. We see something, and then we know that can't possibly be true, so we do some math and science to figure out, prove to ourselves why it isn't what we see, right? That's kind of my take on science. Like, we make an observation, and then we choose science to describe why it is I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Is that a fair explanation?
Well, no, we use science to test a hypothesis. So we see something, and we go, I think this is doing this because of this, and then science's job is to try and disprove that hypothesis, right? But all of the videos you're showing there appear to show the sun below the clouds, which means that the maximum height of the sun, according to you, would be 30,000 miles, not 30,000 feet, sorry, not 90 to 100 miles.
I mean, the other thing I notice is when, the debates and the flat earth and the globe people get together, we go, okay, well, if that's true, then here's some other unrelated element that I'm going to suppose and assume variables for to prove that your original observation was false. And I mean, scientifically, that makes sense, but to me, that doesn't prove anything. I'm just like, well, yeah, but we didn't deal with the issue of, well, why is it in the clouds in the first place? Is it reflection?
Well, it's clearly not in the clouds.
Then why am I seeing it like that?
Because things can appear not quite how they are, and that's why we don't rely on just like our senses to tell us about the world around us. Now, there's other logical problems with this theory of yours. Even if it is 90 miles. And not the 30,000 feet that would have to suggest, then the other problem is the fact that it doesn't get warmer the higher you go. In fact, it gets considerably cooler, which doesn't make any sense because we know the thing that heats the earth, that gives us energy, is the sun. Yet, the closer to the sun we get, the colder it gets within our own atmosphere. That doesn't make sense for a sun that is small and local. Logically, do you see that?
Are we assuming the energy throughput of a giant gas ball at 19 million miles away?
Well, it's not gas.
2-mile diameter. If we assume the energy from the heliocentric sun, that energy we're going to put on this tiny now local object instead of retroactively assuming the energy that we see is actually, we're not scaling it.
Well, we can calculate how much energy we can calculate how much energy hits the Earth every day. We can take a square footage of Earth over any area, and we can physically calculate how much energy is hitting the Earth every day, and that requires a massive output, right? And that if the sun is small and local, that the amount of energy that the sun receives each day would be coming from something that is very, very, very hot, and it's clearly not, because the higher we get, the colder it gets.
Where does the sun receive energy from?
No, the sun is giving us energy. We are receiving energy from the sun. And we can calculate exactly how much. You can take a square foot and see how much energy goes into it. You can put a glass of water, measure the amount of liquid, and then put it in the sun and see how long that bit of liquid takes to increase in temperature, and calculate the energy that we are receiving from the sun. And it turns out we're receiving a fuck ton of energy from the sun. So that means that the thing that is coming from has to be hot. It has to be. Maybe not as hot as a nuclear furnace 93 million miles away if it's small and local, but it would still have to be extremely hot. And then there's the case of actually what the sun is, but that's different. Right now I'm just talking about the logical inconsistency of a small and local sun and climbing Mount Everest.
What about climbing Mount Everest?
Well, it gets colder, a lot colder.
Right. So the higher you go up, the colder it is, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
But
But it should be warmer.
we don't,
It should be warmer. If the sun is small and local, even 90 to 100 miles, the higher you go, the hotter it should get. But it doesn't.
but that assumes the sun is exerting the same force all over the Earth as it does in the heliocentric model. The local sun doesn't do that, right?
It just assumes that the sun's output is the same, and at every point where the sun is your zenith overhead, at that point you would be receiving exactly the same amount of energy regardless of where you are in the world, because that's how it works. That was how it would have to work, right?
But see, that's another presupposition, I think.
No, that's not a presupposition. That's how energy works. That's how energy is transferred. And we know that the sun gives out energy in the form of waves. And we know that the way those waves interact with our atmosphere and with us, it causes heat. But for that to happen with a small and local sun means it would be within the atmosphere and it would be hotter the higher you go. It would have to be. You know, that's a logical fact. You can't get away from the fact that with a small and local sun, the closer you got to it, the hotter it would be. There's no reason it would be colder. Right,
I just don't think that all of the Earth is feeling the same level of sun energy at all times, right?
Not at all time. But my point is, you have
not
to
even the half of the sun that's lit. You have all the same energy at the same time.
You have to take into account the fact of when the sun is your local and the amount of energy that you would receive, right? And regardless of how much energy each area is receiving, the point is that it would be hotter the closer you got to it. And that does not correspond with reality. Reality says that the higher you go, the colder it gets. A lot colder. People that try to get inside airplane wheel compartments for a free flight, they die because it's cold and there's not much air up there. You know, it's like not hotter.
If the plane flew close to the sun, it should burn up, right? From our understanding of physics, and right. I see where you're coming from, but
and we know that there's a hell of a lot of energy coming from the sun because spectroscopy is a thing. We can measure the interactions of the electromagnetic.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'll watch the video.
How can you think Dave Weiss is anything to follow when he said spectroscopy needs a container?
People say dumb shit sometimes, man. I'm sure you're included.
Every time Dave Weiss opens his mouth, he says dumb shit. The sun doesn't cause heat, and magnetic declination moves the stars. God.
I think I found something on that too. That was pretty funny. I had to look up what the heck that was in the first place, right?
Right.
The migration of the North Pole or the magnetic North Pole across. Yeah.
Right. Okay, but can we agree that there is a logical inconsistency with what we experience in reality and a small and local sun?
We don't know everything. We don't know why we see the way. We don't know why we see.
Well, no, but we know what the sun is. We know exactly what the sun is because we can
I don't think
measure.
We know what the sun is.
Well, we do. Spectroscopy can tell us alone what the sun is because we can measure the byproducts from the sun. We can measure gamma rays, alpha rays, beta rays, X rays, UV. We can measure what is coming from the sun, and it turns out what we measure is stuff that happens to be the leftover stuff from a nuclear reaction of turning hydrogen into helium. That tells us what the sun is. So we know the sun is a nuclear reactor, and it's bloody hot. And that means that if it is small and local, it would be higher. The hotter, the higher you go, and that does not match reality. Right, so I couldn't find the original video I wanted to, but this is another excellent one. This is from a friend of mine called Wolfie. Oh. So he took images of the sun throughout the whole day. Where's my screen? Yeah, so he was testing the claim of the sun shrinking. So he took images of it from the same perspective throughout the whole day, and measured the actual angular size, showing the equipment that he used and the solar, the solar filter that he used to remove most of the light. And when he's got another video showing, going through each and every slide. But what you find out is that for every single, hour of the day, the sun's angular size stays exactly the same. There's like a 0.3 degree variance, which is kind of what we expect, but the angular size stays the same, which is impossible if the sun is small and local.
This would be more convincing to me if it was done on the East Coast and the West Coast of the U.S., for instance, and those different atmospheric and heat conditions, and then compare those results.
Well, this is done, I'm pretty sure, in Australia.
Right.
But that's the point of the solar filter, is it removes the problems from glare and stuff like that. All right? You don't have those issues. What you have is the actual shape of the sun with all the interference removed. And then you look at it throughout the whole day, and it doesn't change angular size. It stays the same, which is impossible. Even if it changed just a little, would still debunk a small and local sun, because a small and local sun requires you to have a massive difference in the angular size of the sun throughout the day, and that doesn't happen. Okay, so that's two logical inconsistencies of a small and local sun. Number one, we know for a fact that it does not change angular size. That's not the only video. There's tons of videos showing that using a solar filter, measuring the angular size of the sun throughout the day, and it doesn't change. Right? We know that's a fact. It can be repeated. That's just a thing. We also know that it gets colder the higher you go. Those two things are incompatible with a sun that is small and local.
So you know who ODD is, obviously, right?
One of the worst rappers in existence.
I'm not going to comment on that. But I mean, I think he had one of his videos did an exact rebuttal to those conclusions. I think if you want to watch maybe 4 minutes.
Yeah, no.
With me.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. He doesn't use a solar filter in the slightest.
Right, but it does appear to be getting different, smaller and bigger as it.
Yeah, because he doesn't use a solar filter. That's the point. You can't rebut someone using a solar filter by not using a solar filter. That's the whole point of using a solar filter, is to debunk the fact that when you look at it without a solar filter, it appears to get smaller or larger because of the glare. Okay. So you need to get rid of that glare. So ODD responded to the debunk by just saying the original thing.
Okay, fair enough. So we say the sun's small and local. You say if that was true, then this would happen. And we say, oh, here's an example where that happens. You go, yeah, but we didn't use the right filter.
Yeah, you didn't use the right equipment to actually measure the angular size of the sun. You can't try and determine the angular size of the sun with something that isn't going to be able to help you do that. You can't just look at it without a solar filter. You need a proper solar filter that removes way over 99% of the light to actually show you the proper shape of the sun. Otherwise, it's gonna appear to get bigger and larger because of the glare alone. You know, that's what happens. I thought we said
at first it didn't appear to get small. That was the whole basis for the ODD movie, right?
But it does appear. No, we've always said it does appear to, right? When you're just looking with your naked eyes or through a normal camera, as you watch the sun, it appears to change size throughout the day. But that is because of the glare coming from it. So you need to remove that extraneous amount of light. You don't need all of that light to actually see the shape of the sun. Remove most of that light, you can see the actual shape and actually see what happens to it throughout the day. And what happens is it doesn't change in angular size. So unless you have a video with a proper solar filter that shows the sun changing in angular size, we have to agree that it doesn't change in angular size. Otherwise, the solar if it changed in angular size, the solar filter would show it changing in angular size, right?
I mean, I don't know enough about photography. I don't have a solar filter, but I'll assume what you're saying is correct.
Right. Okay. So, Shane, you have to realize that there's two very big logical inconsistencies with a small and local sun. Right.
I realize there's a lot I don't know, man.
Yeah. But everything we observe that we can actually measure and test shows us that the sun is really far away. And one of the easy ways to test if the sun is small and local or far away is the rays of light that come in from the sun. If the rays of light that come in from the sun are parallel, that means that the sun has to be far away. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And I assume you've seen all of those videos that flat earthers show of corpuscular rays that show light appearing to spread out, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's very easy to debunk. The reason that those corpuscular rays look like that is because of perspective. The way that you're looking at them, the same way that if you look at a train track, if you're standing on a train track and you look at the train track going into the distance, it doesn't look parallel. It looks like they're spreading out, right? Yeah.
Yep.
But we know it's parallel. So what's the best way to see if it's parallel or not is to actually change your perspective. And that's what my friend Dav Gowns did. So he's got his drone here, and as you can see, the rays of light are causing these shadows to be parallel, right? This is straight away something that is only possible if the sun is far away. If the sun was small and local, they would be converging when you're looking directly above them. However, when you get closer, in this
picture, right?
When you do as you go down. When you get the source is the sun, obviously, but as you get down and get closer, even though we've just seen that those shadows from the rays of light are parallel, once we get down here, they don't appear parallel at all. In fact, right now, they appear pretty spread out. One's pointing this way, this one's pointing that way, but we know when we were looking above it, we know that they were parallel. We can see the sun off in the distance that's causing these rays, that's causing these shadows. So yeah, if you look at it from this, you could go, oh look, well, those shadows, they're not parallel. They're all spreading out. They're pointing towards that local sun. But they're not. That's just your perspective. This is what is actually happening.
But every observation with the sun in frame, you could see corpuscular rays. But we only see this distortion when it's further and further away from the source, is my argument to this.
Of course, and that takes me back to my point of looking, if you're standing on a train track and looking down the train track, that would be the same as looking at the source of light. From that perspective, looking straight on, it's going to appear to converge. Yes, of course it is, because that's your perspective. But we know that train tracks don't converge. We know that's a fact. We know train tracks have to be parallel, otherwise millions of people a day die. And the way that we could tell if a train track was parallel or not is to go above it, right? That's the best way. Look above it, directly down, and you can see that the train track is in fact parallel. It's not converging as it appears to. The same with rays of light, or shadows caused by the rays of light. The best way to see if they are actually parallel is to get to a perspective where that's possible, looking above it. Because when you're down here, that's exactly the same as looking down a train track, looking towards the source. It's all going to appear to converge towards there. Just perspective. We know it's not, because we can see it's not. This picture alone, just this frame, is impossible if the sun is small and local.
That's a crazy claim, man.
Well, no, it's a fact. If the sun was small and local, then those shadows would be converging, right?
I think every image with the source in frame would show something totally different, and that's a tough argument to hold then.
Well, like I just explained to you, that's about perspective. The same way that when you are looking down a train track, it's going to appear to converge. It doesn't mean that it's converging to a point that's small and local. No, it doesn't. That's just perspective. You can see this right here. This is impossible if the sun is small and local. Because if the sun was small and local, then they would be converging. But they're not. We know they're not. Even though it looks like they are, even though when you get the sun in shot, it looks like it is converging towards the sun, we know it's not. Therefore, it's not. Therefore, the sun can't be small and local. And that's not a crazy claim. That's the third logical inconsistency of a small and local sun. A small and local sun makes parallel rays, inconsistent with a flat Earth. A small and local sun means it would be hotter as you go higher. It doesn't. Inconsistent.
Well, corpuscular rays are congruent with a small and local sun, not the other way around, right?
Well, no, they're really not, because if you are looking at corpuscular rays from an outside source, they don't, from an outside perspective, they don't look the same as if you are looking right at them. I live in Scotland, in Fife, right by the Firth of Forfeits, where the ocean comes in between two sets of mountains. So I get the most amazing cloud breaks, right? And as you drive along the road, you can see the corpuscular rays seem to shift and move with you as you go, right? If the sun was small and local, they wouldn't change their position relative to the sun just by going past them. You would from any point, be able to take those angles and triangulate to where the sun is, but you can't, because it's shifting based on your perspective. If you get far enough away, the corpuscular rays even look parallel. If you get closer up, they look like they're spreading out. Exactly the same as this. It's all about perspective. We know 100% those lines aren't parallel. Do you agree?
I would agree.
They are parallel. Sorry.
I mean, that I've never seen them shift in my own perspective, but if people are claiming that's true, that's something else to consider for me.
There's also the fact that corpuscular rays like this happen, which appears to show it coming from underground.
Those anti-corpuscular
yeah, they're called
rays?
anti-corpuscular rays. Yeah, they're a type of corpuscular ray. But we know for a fact the sun doesn't go underground, so that's kind of a problem, right?
Right, but we do know, we understand perspective, right? We understand how corpuscular rays appear to be anti-corpuscular from the opposite side, like this little image over here.
Yeah, but it would have to mean the sun was under, the point of your eyes for that to show upwards. Otherwise, they would always look down towards you. These are things that are incompatible with the Earth being flat.
These seem like cherry-picked I gotchas. Oh, no, Earth isn't flat.
Hardly cherry-picking. It's refusions of the points that flat earthers make. Right? I'm showing you things that are inconsistent with the Earth being flat. It's completely against the concept of a flat Earth. These things can't happen if the Earth is flat. That's not cherry-picking. That is, rebutting things that we're told. And all we have to do is understand how perspective actually works.
How many other anti-corpuscular shots of the sun appearing underneath do you have to show me?
I can find hundreds.
Well, I mean, how many do you have?
Well, on my drive, which doesn't appear to be working right now, I've got like 20 or 30 saved.
Sweet. That's
but you can just Google and look for them. They're everywhere. All right.
Right.
Plus, perspective doesn't make things drop below eye line. That's not how perspective works.
Right. That wouldn't be the reason that would appear below.
No. When you've got an eye line, when you've got a tangent line of sight, things go into it. They would never drop below. Like if you're, looking at the horizon with a train track going towards it, the train track's never going to then go above the horizon. It's just going to go into the horizon. That's what perspective says will happen, is things will converge into the horizon. They'd never go below or above it due to perspective.
Right.
So you do understand my point here, how everything you say about the sun being small and local is actually logically inconsistent with reality. It doesn't match what we see in reality when you actually test the claims. Yeah, you can look at a video and go, oh, that sun appears to be getting smaller. Well, what do? You test the claim. How do you do that? Use a solar filter. These things show that the sun can't be small and local.
Yeah, I should probably try to do it myself with the solar filter. How much one of those costs?
You can get one on Amazon for like 12 quid.
I'm already out. Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Have to do that myself.
You got to make sure that they're proper solar filters, though. That they do remove enough of the light, because there's ones that aren't quite good enough. If you want help from anyone to know which kind you can get, I'm sure there's plenty of people in the community that could point you in the direction of a decent one.
Does a solar filter do anything to the clouds around it? Or does that count as light pollution or something, or is it just removing everything but the sun from the frame? Or
it removes it removes most of the light, right? So if you're looking at the sun behind a cloud for a solar filter, it's going to be quite hard to even see the sun at that point. It's best to try and look at the sun when there's nothing around to actually get the proper shape of it. Does that make sense?
Can't argue that. Yes, sir.
Val in the chat says, wait, objectively, how many Flerfs has FTFE actually saved? Hundreds. I have hundreds of emails from flat earthers or people that used to be flat earthers that have watched my stuff and then realized how dumb it was. I've also got an entire playlist on my channel called Interview with Ex-Flat Earthers.
Nothing against you, man, but what you have is a whole bunch of people who were curious, who you firmly directed back towards the globe before they could
No, no,
look
no.
further.
They were absolutely flat out flat earthers. Like for instance,
Really?
Ranty Flat Earth was one of the
Ah, I
biggest
heard
flat
that one.
earthers.
Yeah.
You know, who's now not, thanks to conspiracy cats and me debating him and stuff. And there's a lot of people that were flat earthers for a long, long time. One said 12 years, and they've been convinced by reality.
I mean, I'm not
Okay.
saying these observations alone made me a flat earther, but I could definitely hear reason. But this, you want to do a different example
Well,
besides the sun? You want to move away from the sun?
yeah. So the sun. I'd say that covers the sun. That should be, for anyone that's logically thinking, enough evidence to show that the sun, in fact, isn't small and local. I could go a lot deeper into the maths and show you things like how we know the sun dips 1 degree in the sky for every 69.1 miles, and how that is completely mathematically incompatible with a flat plane. But that requires a bit of maths. I can't be bothered to go through that right now. But the other thing you said was the stars, right?
Right. So the
So
circular pattern of
tell
the
us your
stars.
issue with the stars and why you think that shows the Earth to be flat.
Can we change it up? Go with a different example.
Yeah.
You know the 2014 Go Fast rocket from Arizona that I'm sure everyone showed you 100 times.
Yeah, the thing with the yo-yo D-spin.
Yeah, that one.
What about it?
That whole thing, that whole event, everything about that launch. Is another
Oh,
big
okay.
factor
Well,
for me,
the
if you want to poke
you
some
know
holes in it for me.
the creators of that rocket did a video explaining the yo-yo D-spin and what it is, and you know the fact that the rocket doesn't stop, it keeps going up, it doesn't explode. I mean, that honestly one of the dumbest claims ever of evidence of flat Earth, a rocket going into space and doing what it was supposed to do. What was there to
What
talk
was the
about
sound?
with that?
What was the sound it made?
The yo-yo D-spin mechanism releasing.
That sounds like kerplunk.
Yeah, that's kind of what it sounds like.
You've seen the video, you've heard it, right? You've heard the
Yeah,
sound.
yeah, it's the
Are there,
yo-yo
are there
D-spin
other
mechanism releasing and stopping the rotation. It's going to make a bunch of noise.
are there other captures of that sound sounding like kerplunk besides this one rocket example?
I mean,
'Cause I've never heard of that.
what
I've never
do you
heard of that
think
type.
that sound would be?
I had no idea what it was. That's why I was so interested and curious in it.
I mean,
I
it
have no
couldn't
idea
be
what that would
hitting
be.
something because it would
Could
explode
be.
with the speed it was going. No, if it hit anything, including any kind of liquid, it would have exploded because it was going very, very fast.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you. What happened, what we saw, was exactly what we predicted to see with the rocket before it went up.
You want to watch it with me once and show me how dumb I am then?
If you want to go through something that's been debunked 1,000 times, please go ahead.
I do. I want you to bring me back to being a Glover, and this is the personal example for me where my brain goes, something's not right. Want to help me out?
Yeah, I don't understand how this is any evidence of anything. Right, give me 1 sec. Let me get that up so people can see.
Which one was it? This one. You good?
Yeah, ready?
Mm-hmm. So there's that, right? Doesn't sound like anything flat Earth oriented. Here's the other problem that I didn't even notice is this is the moon, right?
Yeah.
How can we see the moon over New Zealand from Arizona?
Because space is three-dimensional.
But I mean, it would, this is not possible to me. It's
That's
more
because
like
you're
it's
not
this, right?
thinking. It's because you're not thinking in 3 dimensions. I could
So
show
I
you how
had-
that's possible quite easily with solar system scope in a bit, but let's get to the noises and the issues you have.
Right, so is this a fair representation of where the 2 points would be, or is this a wrong globe map to use?
Yeah, I said we'd do that in a minute, but
Okay.
I want to hear the noises you're on about first. In the dome.
I laughed just like you the first time I saw it, and I watched it a bunch of times, right? And like, what? Well, what the hell was that?
Is that it? Was that the noise? The kerplunk there?
So it hit something. You said it hit nothing. It stopped. We know all the velocity and momentum stopped. Don't
Well,
know
no, it's
why.
still
Don't know
going
how.
up.
Well, so yeah, but it stopped about 93% of its momentum. You're saying that
No,
so
no,
it
no.
didn't stop, so it kept going.
The only thing that stopped was its rotational velocity. It still carried on going
I
up
don't
at
know.
the
It's
same
angular
speed.
velocity. No, it didn't. Definitely did not carry on going up at the speed it was a
Well, no,
second ago.
it
No
did. You
way.
can see it actually on the the instrumentation when they show you all the data. It kept going up at the same speed.
Huh.
That's it. The only thing that stops is the rotational speed.
That's crazy. That's a way slower. I mean, the rotational speed definitely changes, but so does the angular momentum.
Well, the angular momentum is the rotational speed.
Well, what do we call
But
the
it's
velocity then? The
yeah,
speed at which it goes
it's
up.
still going up at the same speed. That doesn't
That's
change.
crazy. That's crazy. You watch this and you still say that.
Yeah, it's really high up. It's still going up at the same speed. You know, the things below it aren't changing. It's still going up. It's just not spinning round anymore.
You're right. The spinning is definitely the visually apparent one that stops. And in the
Yeah.
video, I guess there's no visual evidence that the higher velocity didn't. All right. I see
No,
what you're saying.
and you know, again, there's a video online of the people that made the rocket talking about the, you know, what the yo-yo D-spin mechanism does and everything, and that's what you heard the noise, that is the
Right.
mechanism releasing, and you know, using centrifugal acceleration to being thrown away from the rocket, counteracting its movement with the weight.
And then just the moon issue. How is the moon visible there?
Right. Okay. Let's what do you know the date and everything of that?
Yeah. I'll
Right.
put it in my description. Let's
Let's
see. It is. So it's July 14th, 2014.
Okay, and you got time.
11.71 south.
All right, let me just get up my solar system scope. Add input.
You know, I really thought you'd be much meaner, dude.
You haven't given me a reason to be mean so far, Shane.
Okay.
I have a rule on my channel, which should be well known by now, is that I mirror the flat earther.
Okay.
So far, all you've done is be respectful and nice to me, and kind of agreed with the fact that there's logical inconsistencies. You haven't overtalked, you haven't shouted, you haven't been a dick, so I don't need to be a dick to you. Frankly, I still think you're
wrong and but deluded,
very, very wrong
brainwashed.
and
True.
brainwashed, but I don't need to shout at you because you're letting me have a conversation.
So then there's that few people that argue that way on your channel then, because everyone I've seen is angry.
Because
Is that
flat
'cause everyone
earthers
else
in
is-
general are fucking idiots. Don't know how
I'm not gonna repeat
conversations
that,
work.
dude. And also mean, angry, not really.
Yeah, I've had death
loquacious.
threats and all sorts. Right, come on, there we. No, why are you showing the wrong screen?
I had, like I said, someone from MC Tunes Discord help me out. He opened up his Galaxy emulator and a program, and we went through this in depth. And he tried very hard to make it work, and he was convinced it did work, but we just never actually found the one angle that made it work. So I was kind of like, wow, how hard are we going to look for it? I mean, I guess
Right.
it's possible.
Okay, so here we go. This is solar system scope. All right. So what was the date and time?
It was July 14th, 2014. And as far as I know, this is still the world record for the highest altitude rocket launch. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, highest altitude amateur rocket launch. What day?
July 14th.
14th. And what was the time in UTC?
I don't think I grabbed that. Let's see.
Do you know the time at all?
Nope. I know the stage of the moon, I think, was all I looked at. I'm sure we can find out, right?
Okay. So, let's have a look. So where's the moon? The moon's over there. You can see it over there. And where was the locations that you had the issues with?
So it was trying to appear. Let's see. I think I had it froze frame. Yeah.
So Arizona, which is somewhere over here.
There we go. I'll see.
I think Arizona's a bit further down there, isn't it?
So I put it there-ish. Right. Did my lovely paint handiwork on this one.
We get the moon in the sky. Oh. Okay. So, okay, well, this is in Arizona, and what was the other place that you had an issue with?
It was over New Zealand. The moon's position was over New Zealand.
Right.
Roughly over here.
The moon's position was over New Zealand.
Yeah, it was, let's see.
So could New Zealand and Arizona both see the moon at the same time?
No? He said
What do you mean?
upward
What do you mean the
inflection.
moon's position was over New Zealand?
I mean, that's its physical location. It was supposed to be over New. It was currently nighttime right over New Zealand, right?
Right. Okay. So it's nighttime in New Zealand during this observation.
Yes.
And you're saying they could see the moon from Arizona as well.
From high, so, from 73 miles above Arizona, we could see the moon over New Zealand more accurately.
Okay. Right. So let's go out back to the. So this is at that time. Where's the moon? The moon's over there. And they were up in above Arizona.
Right.
Is that still the same time? Sorry, New Zealand's over here, so they're seeing it. So all we need to do really is have a point where both this and this. Oh no, sorry, this are pointing towards the moon, which is over.
Connect those 2 points with a line, right? The line of vision, line of sight.
Where's the moon? Right, moon's over there. So what we need to do is rotate it a bit that way. Right. So a bit more. Right. So at this point, if you went above the surface, you'd be able to see the moon. And there, New Zealand is also pointing towards the moon. So, moon's over there. Both New Zealand, which was here, and Arizona, which was here, right on the edge, would both be able to see the moon right at the same time, whilst the moon's in the sky over New Zealand. We've got Arizona there, be able to see it. Straight line from there to there. And then we've got New Zealand over here at the bottom. So, which would mean at the same time, New Zealand, which is around there, would be able to see it. That doesn't seem to be an issue when you look at the actual data of what it should look like.
Huh. Well, shit.
This is a great program, and one that I suggest anyone gets to play around with. It's a free version, or it's £10 for the HD version. Really? And it's great because it's based on real life data of where celestial objects are at any time. So you can always check claims like this. I'm using it in a great video coming up against Level Earth Observer. But yeah, there we go. I think that solves that one, right?
That's pretty sweet. Yeah. Never seen that before. Thank you.
No worries. Boom. Easy. Welcome back to the globe.
Getting there. I mean, what about all the rocket launchers that seem to brush against stuff in the sky, right?
What do you mean brush against stuff in the sky?
Like this stuff. Ever seen
Sorry,
these?
Are you displaying right now? I've not.
No, I turned off mine when you did yours. Wait, am I still showing? You're showing. I'm showing.
Let me just get the right one up. Zoom. Yeah, you're not displaying right now. So if you want to display something else, just.
Okay. This was the only other thing that, before I knew anything about this, when I watched it, I went, "What the heck is that?"
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, as long as you actually look into it and see what's going on. So, what are we looking at here?
This is supposedly a SpaceX rocket launch taken from someone, driving, or let's see, yeah, close. But I mean, when I looked into this, all I found was more of the same. Was my problem. It happens a lot. And then, I'd offer all the rational explanations. Well, there's some sort of gas that had an explosion, it's leaking, all sorts of things could have happened to explain what I'm seeing.
Well, what's the issue right now?
Nothing so far, right? So it starts to rub.
Are we on about that there?
A little.
Okay,
it gets
so
much more pronounced.
It's very easy to explain why that happens, and it's actually what we would expect to see. So there's two things happening, right? The first thing is that there's multiple rockets, there's multiple stages. So as the fuel in one stage finishes, they ignite a second stage, and that's going to give you a big burst, right? The other thing that's happening is the rocket is rising in altitude. And as we know, the higher you go in altitude, the lower the air pressure is. And what that means is the gas that is being expelled from the back of the rocket spreads out quicker and easier. As it's at the ground, the exhaust looks like a straight line. The higher it gets, the exhaust seems to spread out until you get to this point where it's in such an area of such low pressure that the exhaust gases just seem to spread out everywhere. And when they then initiate a new stage of burning, it's going to look like an explosion of some kind or some kind of big burst. But that's what we expect to see, and why you see it in so many launches is because that's what's happening. There's ignitions happening in an extremely low pressure environment.
Does that explain the weird ripples that we saw too?
Yeah.
That's part of the explosion.
The weird ripples could just be fuel running out in one stage with waves of exhaust coming out. It could just be a shockwave from ignition of a new part of the burn going on. It could also be
sense to me.
It could also be the way that we're viewing what's going on through the atmosphere.
That also made sense to me.
But
so
all of those things are what we expect to see. If a rocket is leaving Earth and going up into an area of low pressure, that's what we should see.
Oh, oops! They deleted my account. Forgot about that.
Who? Roxy Tube. What's that? Who deleted your account?
YouTube. This is, I have what? One I'm on now is my 28th, 26th.
You being
They
naughty?
don't like me. 26 times. 26 times they took me down, I think. I guess they don't know how to stop me from coming back, but whatever.
Yeah, it's the Illuminati. Hold on one sec. Yeah, guys, do you know he's back?
Me.
Yeah, he's live with me right now. He's connected to my Zoom. You can just check the IP. Yeah. All right, Shane, if you could just stay exactly where you are. Please don't leave your house right now. There will not be men in black suits arriving at your house shortly.
Well, people who are rich who run on YouTube hate me. I don't know who they are, put it that way.
Right, so
No.
how are we doing, Shane? I feel like these things that you have are quite easy to explain, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job of explaining why we see the things that we do.
I mean, I think you gave the best rationale scientism has to offer. How's that for a Flerf statement for you?
It's good, and that's how it starts. And what you have to realize is that the things that I'm saying are simple, logical thought processes. Initially when you look at something, it can be confusing. You don't know what's going on. Oh, why is that happening?
Right.
And when you've had people like Dearth whispering in your ear and Jainism on the other shoulder whispering in that ear, it can make you draw conclusions before you've actually investigated everything that's going on. And that's a
100%.
problem.
It works both ways, though, right?
Yeah, well, everyone's got a bias, of course.
Right.
But the thing is about separating your bias from what's going on. And the things that I've shown you today, they don't take much research, All of the information is there. It's available. If you've got questions like the ones you've got, there's people that will answer it. There's programs that can show it in a different way. Maybe the one that the guy on Discord was showing you, it obviously wasn't good enough. But today I showed you Solar System Scope, and I heard it in your voice. I heard that.
100%.
Oh, fuck. Right?
I said, oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And I've heard that a few times, Shane. And within a few weeks, the people have emailed me and said, okay, I was wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. Right?
Right.
When you're ignorant. You are ignorant, but I'm not calling you ignorant as an insult. It's just a fact. You're ignorant of the way these things work. You don't know why we're seeing that. You didn't understand when you look at something in 3 dimensions from a certain perspective, it can show you this instead of something else. You were ignorant of those, but now you're not. It's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with being wrong or not knowing something, because it gives you an opportunity to actually learn why it is how it is.
Right.
So star patterns, sun shrinking, moon being visible, go fast rocket. Anything else?
I mean, no, those are the top ones. The other things, but they're much smaller comparatively to those big ones for me.
Okay, so a couple of questions for you then.
Sure.
Why isn't there any measurements of the Earth being stationary?
Every measurement is of the Earth being stationary before it gets curved.
We're not talking about the shape right now. We're just talking about the movement of the Earth. Whenever any measurement has been done with equipment capable of detecting motion, it's shown that the Earth is moving. There isn't a single measurement of the Earth being stationary. Despite what Eric DeBay and Dearth and people have lied to you about, every single measurement shows that the Earth is moving.
Didn't Oakley put out that 2-minute video that made MC Toon do his $10,000 challenge for the protractor? He says that the protractor itself with the bottom level line is the only possible way you can make an angular observation in the first place. And
well,
said,
no, that's talking about a
drop.
That's talking about a sextant. Oakley hasn't a clue about a sextant, and I killed the sextant argument in my video at the beginning of the year. But we're talking about the actual motion of the Earth right now. We're not talking about measurements of the shape or baselines or anything else that Oakley doesn't understand, as well as brushing his teeth. But yeah, we're talking about the actual motion of the Earth, the rotation specifically, right? Every time that someone's attempted to measure the rotation of the Earth, they've measured the rotation of the Earth. It's never been measured as stationary. Why is that?
That's not true.
It is true. Even when flat earthers try and measure it, they end up measuring the rotation. I'm sure you've heard of Bob Nodell, right?
From Goldbusters?
Yeah.
Yeah. He measured the rotation of the Earth?
If the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to drift. In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth.
That's him?
One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift.
Thanks, Bob.
If the Earth is spinning at...
Shh, hey, stop. Yeah, so...
I mean, I've never seen that, but...
yeah, that's from the famous Netflix documentary, Behind the Curve. Basically, Bob said that if we could get a fiber optic gyroscope, a ring laser gyroscope, then because of the way that it works using the Sagnac effect and the speed of light, it would be able to unequivocally tell us if the Earth is rotating or not. They turned it on all happy going, haha, it's going to show no rotation, and boom. Second they turn it on, 15 degree per hour drift.
The Illuminati made that one, dude. That's not the correct model. It was already skewed before you even got it.
Same as every interferometric gyroscope on the planet. They all do the same thing. In fact, modern planes have 3 of them on board that measure the rotation of the Earth so accurately they can determine the position on Earth they are. And if the position with the computer doesn't match up with what the gyroscopes say, you can't turn the plane on.
Well, wasn't there the Mark Sargent video where one of the pilots called when his gyroscope broke and reported exactly the opposite of that? He had an experience where it wasn't working and it wasn't working and he drove without it and it turns out he never measured anything.
No.
I mean, you've seen every flat Earth proof there is, so you probably saw that Mark Sargent.
Yeah.
I don't really like him.
I don't know if I've seen that one specifically, but I mean, every pilot in the world would disagree, including the 3 that are watching right now. I can see in the chat.
Fair enough.
But
I'm good.
Okay, so that's what he used is called a fiber optic gyroscope or a ring laser gyroscope. It's an interferometric gyroscope that measures the rotation of Earth using the rotation of whatever it's sitting on by measuring the speed of light. So imagine
wait, that's what that gyroscope does?
Yeah. Imagine a triangle, right? And at one point of the triangle, there's a laser that's firing in, and there's a mirror that splits that path of light. So half of it goes one way and half of it goes the other way, right? So we've got light going around both ways of this path. And because speed of light is constant in a vacuum, the light should take the same time to go this way and to go that way, right? And when you have the gyroscope, if it's measuring that there's no rotation, that means that it's going to measure the light taking the same time to go around both paths. But if this thing is moving, if it's rotating, what that means is light takes longer to go around one path, but shorter on the other. And we measure that as an interference pattern, which we can show as a drift. And that's what happens, is when they turn on the interferometric gyroscope, it instantly registers as though it's drifting at 15 degrees per hour. And they tried to disprove it by saying, oh, it must be the heavenly energies. And they encased it in a bismuth case, which didn't do anything because it's still going to measure the rotation of the Earth. He told a bunch of lies about it being deceptive editing and stuff, but it wasn't, because then Nathan Thompson stupidly recorded them playing with the gyroscope in Bob's home, showing it attached to his computer, and as they turn it on, it shows instantly that it's measuring that rotation. The next thing that they did was they said, oh, it's electrics. It's probably all programmed to show that. So they commissioned someone called Stephen P., another flat earther, to build a mechanical gyroscope, which wouldn't be influenced by whatever magical heaven energies they were claiming the first one was influenced by. And then, so Stephen P., I'm trying to find the video, or is that on my drive that's not working as well? One sec. No, got that one. Right, so Stephen P. built this masterpiece of engineering, which was impressive for a flat earther. But it's a very stable mechanical gyroscope that is extremely accurate. Really, really accurate. And do you know what happened when they turned it on, Shane?
Heaven energies.
It measured the rotation of Earth. And what they did was they changed its orientation. They changed its spin relative to the axis of Earth. And every test that they did, every single test, gave the result that the Earth is rotating at 15 degrees per hour. Do you know what Bob Nadell did then? He banned Stephen P. from Globebusters and tried to sue him for putting... Yeah.
Come on.
And
really?
no, this is true. And they tried to legally stop him publishing this video online. They used an actual lawyer to have it taken down from several channels. So back to my question is, how come whenever we attempt to measure the rotation of Earth, what we get is that the Earth's rotating? Do you know it's even easier to measure the rotation of Earth, Shane? Do you know you can measure it with a pendulum?
Foucault's pendulum again.
Yeah, Foucault's pendulum is one of my favorite bits of evidence that the Earth is rotating, because not only does it show that the Earth's rotating, but it shows the shape of the Earth as well. What's your objections to Foucault's pendulum?
I just don't think the variables were controlled enough to say that what was left must be the spin.
What variables?
I mean, yeah, that's one that can be investigated. You know, we just look online. There's plenty of those. There's actually the one, I think MC Toon had one that was like done from the apartment. The second one with the white paper, it went through all that in depth, I think. So
yeah, that's the one I like to use for the gentleman physicist. This one.
Yeah. I mean,
well, the point is of Foucault pendulum is that whenever the experiment's done, you can use the results to find your latitude on Earth. All right. So regardless of what variables we're talking about, right, what happens is that you can use the amount of drift that you get and find your position on the planet just from that information. And that shows that there's a correlation between where you are and what forces are being applied to the pendulum. And the only forces mathematically, according to physics, that we understand make sense is Coriolis forces from a rotating body. What we see with the pendulum matches exactly what we expect from a rotating body with something swinging on it. You know, and wherever you are, you can use it to calculate your latitude on Earth. I've done it myself. In fact, every single person that's done a physics degree does this experiment. And you do it with different materials, so you get rid of any kind of electromagnetic variable. You do it over different periods of times. You do it at different locations. You do control the variables.
They say that, and I'm not sure that was done correctly. That was my objection.
The best way to control for electromagnetic variables is change the material that it's done with. Because that means that you would get a different result, because different materials react differently to electromagnetic forces. But what you find is regardless of the material, it doesn't matter what the material is, you still find that you get the same result. And there isn't any experiment that shows the opposite of what pendulums show, of what gyroscopes show. Of you can build a gyro compass in your sink with a few pencils and a magnet, and these are all things that demonstrate and are predicted by a rotating Earth. Like, why is it the case that hurricanes don't cross the equator, and if they do, they just die?
The Coriolis over the northern hemisphere and the spinning, is it clockwise versus counterclockwise, and the ones that step over the line don't count or something?
Yeah, it's because
quite extensively with MC.
Yeah, it's because whether you're in the north or south of the equator, Coriolis forces are inverse to each other. So.
But he said that would never happen the other way, right? And there was a couple storms that started one way and crossed the other that we were trying to point to.
There's very few examples of it happening, and a lot of that is to do with it bringing in energy
Right,
from
right.
another
But it
point.
started with there's
But
no examples, and we said if there is one, does that mean this isn't any? Well, yeah, well, this one doesn't count.
What we
This one
find
doesn't-
is
okay.
that 99.99% of storms, if they go anywhere near the equator, that they just die. You know, and they can't cross, and you don't find ones that rotate one way in one hemisphere and the same in the other. They're always opposite. And that's things that are also predicted by a
We can
rotating
say they
Earth.
always start opposite from their location, right? So
Yeah. But again, there's no explanation for why that would happen if the Earth was stationary. But it is explained perfectly by Coriolis forces. There's also the fact that we know that ballistics are deflected. So if you fire a bullet from the equator pointing north, that bullet will drift to the right, which is ahead of the rotation of Earth because of conservation of momentum. The British Navy fighting the Falklands had to adjust because they had calculations for their artillery that was for the northern hemisphere, but because they were in the south and they were using northern hemisphere calculations, they kept getting twice the distance away from their target. So once they altered the calculations to compensate for being in the southern hemisphere, they hit their target. And these are all things that show that Coriolis forces are being imparted onto objects. Pendulums, ballistics, weather systems, all things that show the Earth's rotating. Comes back to my point of why isn't there a measurement of the Earth being stationary? Do you know why? Because it's not.
And I don't want to argue Coriolis. Those are silly ones.
Coriolis is a brilliant.
How come we didn't bring up toilets, man? Toilet spinning. Come on.
Because that's not really Coriolis.
Of course.
Under perfect conditions,
It was held up as an example of Coriolis for years, though, right?
Yeah, only by people that didn't really understand what was going on. And it's more of a thought. It's more of a thought experiment. If the bowl was perfectly spherical and the water was perfectly calm, and there was no extra influence from the water being flushed into it, then in those cases the direction would be influenced by the rotation of the Earth. But with a sink and toilet bowl, merely the friction of the water touching the bowl is probably enough to stop the Coriolis forces. It's stronger than because Coriolis forces aren't strong; they're very, very weak.
From my perspective, looking through all this stuff retroactively and not living through the evolution of knowledge as it was, looking back to see all the things that happened and all the examples that were held up, every example that was held up as a globe was eventually debunked. Like, you remember the sticks and stones from Aristophanes? And
that's never been.
Well, this is how we know. What?
Well, Eratosthenes has never been debunked.
What do you mean? The sticks and the stones? With the different measurements for a local Earth and how the math works out the same on both models?
Oh, it only works the same with 2 points. That's the problem. As soon as you add a third point, it screws flat Earth. And my friend Slice Arcane did it with 37 points around the world. Got a bunch of people to do it, and then mapped it onto a flat plane. In fact, let's have a look at that video.
That sounds interesting, yeah.
Probably be his most. Sorry, one sec. Here we go. Perfect. So, Slice Arcane, the same thing was said to him that when Eratosthenes did his experiment, it was just 2 points, and you could kind of use that to also get the position of the sun and stuff on a flat Earth. With 2 points, with just the 2 points, you're absolutely right. Okay? So what he did was he got all these people, all these places that you're seeing, a whole bunch of them, and he got them all to do the same thing that Eratosthenes did, measure the angle of the shadow cast by the sun on the stick. He got them from all around the world to do it, all these different places. And then what he did was he took it by latitude and mapped it out as though the Earth was flat. So this is all the points being mapped onto the flat plane. So here we go. All these different lines here. Each one of these lines is a different observation from all around the world. mapped onto just a flat baseline, you know, with the correct amount of miles away from the center, as it would be if the Earth was flat. And what we found, I get to the end here, is just adding more and more, showing that there's lots and lots of data points. And once you put all of the data points onto a flat Earth, what you find is that, oh, this is where the sun would be according to the first couple, but then you start seeing all these other positions. Every point where these lines cross would be the apparent position of the sun from that observer's location. When you do it with just 2 points, the initial 2 points that you have, yeah, it would work for a flat or a globe. But you start adding more points and you find that, oh, it's showing that the sun's actually in different places. We're getting conflicting positions for the sun. Every single line here that crosses is a different position for the sun. So what he did was he took that same data and then he mapped it onto a globe. Really quite easily by just rolling the globe underneath. So the same data with the same latitude and different, you know, exactly the same correct miles and everything, so it's where it should be. And when he mapped it onto the globe, what he found was it all pointed in the same direction. The rays of light were parallel, matching what we expected from Eratosthenes, matching what we expect from a sun being far away, showing that when you do Eratosthenes' experiment with more than one position, the only possible explanation is that the Earth is a sphere with a sun that is very far away.
That is pretty neat. That's a lot of work too.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. You know, it was a bunch of people from around the world working together to do science. And
but I mean,
sorry, go on.
I was like, my point about that whole thing was no one knows that that was done, right? This portion of the experiment, not many people who would cite Aristophanes as a globe proof knows it was redone with many more people in a much more satisfying manner.
Well, it's been done loads of times, that's the thing.
Right?
Slice Barkane isn't the only one to do this. There's a thing called the Eratosthenes Project, which has people constantly adding data to it. It's got hundreds of thousands of data points. There's countless videos. There's other people that watch my channel, a guy from Israel that's done his own version of it with, I think, 19 different data points or something. You know, it's not just done by one person. It's done all over the place. But the problem is, you hear the claim from the flat earthers, oh, if you do it, do the maths for a flat plane, it works out the same. You don't really need to go and look anymore because that matches what you want, right? You've never even known that it's been done with more than 2 data points. The flat earthers that tell you, Dirth has seen this video, right? But he will still tell you to your face that Eratosthenes' experiment shows that the Earth could be flat or a globe, even though he's seen this video.
Because he's
a con man and a liar.
No, does he have any refutation to the extra points that you added, or no?
Everyone was lying. Is his answer? It's all just shills. It's all just shills on this Slice Barkane's channel. But you can do it yourself. Anyone can do it. Shane, the Earth's not flat, dude. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the government tells you the truth about everything all the time. All right, because that's a stupid thing to say, right? But no one's lying to you about the shape of the Earth apart from flat earthers. All right. Here's the thing: for the Earth to be flat, everyone's lying to you, Shane. If the Earth is flat, I'm lying to you right now because I've got a physics degree which allows me to be able to do experiments and do these kind of things, and I've measured the Earth's rotation myself. So I have to be lying to you. Every pilot has to be lying to you because pilots have to use the Haversine formula, which specifically references the radius of Earth in spherical trigonometry. Every boat captain has to be lying to you. Everyone that's piloted a submarine, me, has to be lying to you. Everyone that's ever calculated fuel consumption in the Royal Navy, me, has to be lying to you. Every teacher has to be lying to you. Every person high up in government has to be lying to you. All the way down to the little admin men have to be lying to you. All the 17,000 people that work at NASA have to be lying to you. The 300,000 plus people around the world that work for other space agencies, they all have to be lying to you. All of their families have to be lying to you. Everyone has to be lying to you for the Earth to be flat. And
that's a I mean, people lie, right? A lie is based on intent. If they're relaying information they think is true, which happens to be false, is that still a lie? I don't think so.
Well, if you are involved in this stuff, then you would know what is true and what's not. Anyone that teaches physics will know if they are lying to you about the shape of the Earth because they understand physics. You know?
I think we have a big epidemic of people thinking that they know what is true is actually wrong, right? What we think is true.
Yeah, it's called flat earthers thinking they understand physics.
Oh, there's worse than that, man.
There's not much worse than flat earthers, to be honest, because flat earthers distort the truth so much and lie to people and harass.
Do you think most flat earthers know the Earth is a globe and are lying to people, or do you think they truly believe it? And
I think the big flat earthers are lying to you. I know for a fact Nathan Oakley's lying. He straight up admitted that there's perfect globe proof. I think Durf's lying.
YouTube money-based channel. I'm not even going to bring him up. Right? Like
Eric Dubay is a failed yoga teacher that's just saying stupid shit that's been debunked 1,000 times. All the big flat earthers. Jeranism, he himself recorded the ISS transit in the moon. All right, so this so you saw the Bob thing.
yeah.
Here is Jeranism's little contribution to that documentary.
If you're seeing through this hole, through the next hole, and seeing the light at the backboard, or at 17 feet off the water, the Earth is flat. If he's holding it up at 23 feet high and we're seeing the light, well, that's because the Earth's curved. So I should only be able to see it when it's at 17 feet. Okay, go ahead and drive down there, Enrique. You're going to hold the light there. Enrique, how high is your light?
17 feet.
I mean, it's his. We don't see you, Enrique. Lift up your light way above your head. Interesting. Interesting there.
Yeah. So he measured, not specifically with numbers, but he demonstrated that there's a curve to the Earth himself, yet still lies and tells people that the Earth is flat because he's got a channel that makes money. That's all it is. And that's why I said to you at the beginning, Shane, that you've been brainwashed by con men. They're the people that keep pushing this. If these morons didn't keep pushing this, Flat Earth would have died 5 years ago.
Maybe. They're definitely the pinnacles of the movement, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the
so
sun
easy to
observation
debunk.
for me, right?
It's so easy to debunk. Like, it's mind-blowing that people still keep falling for this. And it is pure ignorance of anything regarding physics, maths, science, or reality. You see something which you think shows something, and you want it to be true. Because, I mean,
perhaps.
Let me ask you a question. Knowing that the Earth is flat, do you feel special?
No.
You don't feel like you know something that everyone else hasn't figured out?
No.
No?
No.
You don't...
I mean, it didn't change any of my core beliefs. It was things I already held to be true, right? Like, so nothing radically shifted when I went from where, spinning in an infinite vacuum, 1 billion miles through space with 1 billion other planets like us to, well, actually, no, maybe we're not. Maybe everything that we see is everything that there is.
Okay.
That's the main, you can take from that what you will, right?
But everything that you've been shown by me, by MC Toon, by the amazing Professor Philip Bell,
I mean, I'm still a flat earther, right? But what I'd like to do is take the arguments that you made, make more in-depth research, bring some more stuff. When I think I'm ready again, I'll come back and you can show me how dumb I am again. And
well, what I would like to do,
then I'll be a Glober.
What I would like to do is arrange a discussion between you and Ranty, who used to be a flat earther,
Sure.
but recently, he came back to the sane side, and he was one of the big flat earthers. He was on Oakley's all the time. He had the debate channel, but Conspiracy Cats showed him an observation. He debated me a couple of times, and he came round. And now he's quite good at debunking the flat Earth. He recently his channel recently during the Johnny Depp thing had a couple of videos with like 12 million views because he decided to cover that instead of flat Earth. But yeah, I'd like to get a conversation between Ranty and you, and I think the
I've
chat
heard
would like
him
that
his
as
name
well.
a bunch of times. I think I would like that too. Someone who's been in my shoes that came to yours.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and he did
That'd
all
be-
his own research. His main thing was doing his own research. He, more than any flat earther, like took videos and stuff of boats going over the horizon and different observations. And he did a lot of work, and genuinely thought the Earth was flat until he realized that the observations he was making and other things that he was seeing actually made completely no sense if the Earth was flat. And now thinks that he was a dumbass. But yeah, okay. So I will get a discussion arranged between you and him. I think it's time to read
appreciate that,
super
man.
chats and then go to bed. DL1, who's been a member for 5 months, says, as an Illuminati Satanist witch, I love your work. Thank you. The witches are my main audience. King Edward V for $5. Shane is being intentionally dishonest. I offered to go on his channel and talk about seeing too far, and he still hasn't responded. Is that true,
I said
Shane?
yes, man. I'm welcome to
All right.
anyone. Although I don't know who that is, but anyone's welcome to come on my channel, man. I'm not. I'd appreciate to talk to all of you.
Yeah. Is it all right if I put your email in the chat?
Sure.
Wait, what the hell is Proton Mail?
It's like Google, but much smaller. Not true.
All right, here's Shane's email, guys. If you want to contact him to have a chat, then feel free to give him an email. Earthrise, been around for 8 months, says the sun could never set if it was local. Period. Absolutely. Perspective tells us this. Cinnamon Control for $2 says, are the clouds 100 miles high? No, Shane, they're definitely not. So the sun is either 33,000 feet in the air or not small and local. Brendan Cusketty, member for 22 months, says, finally got to see another, and I've been a member for longer than a month. I know, it says 1 month when you click it, but it's actually shows it for real. And if you guys didn't see, there's actually a new button where you can gift memberships to people that don't have it. So if you feel like, instead of sending a super chat, gifting memberships to people, there's that option now. Awesome. Takos Yanis for 1,024 huffs. To stick to 1 gram of water to a ball within a 1 meter radius and water repellent coating, the ball must have a density of 36 megatons per cubic meter. Yeah, we didn't really get into gravity, so that's all right, but I could check the maths on that. What's your thoughts on gravity, Shane?
How's that?
Well, gravity is something else that I've measured.
Nuh-uh. There you go.
Shut up, you fucking idiot. There we go. Mr. E-Man for $9.80 Australian says, gravity equals winner. Gravity always wins. Yes, it does. Obi-Wan, $10. Craig, give it up, man. He won't get it. He has the understanding of a 3rd grader. Anything more than that is just magic to him, and beyond his ability to understand, can't teach a 3rd grader. No, I'm calling this a win because
wizard. You're right, dude.
I broke his brain at one point. He went, oh shit. And that was it. That was the cracks appearing. Shane, you will soon be an ex-flat earther.
Not saying it's impossible.
Zachary Burns,
Actually,
member
I
for
think I
Sorry, go
started by wanting that, right? Tell me how dumb I am, please, so I can go back to being, normal life here.
As a flat earther, you're pretty fucking dumb, mate. Sorry. Zachary Burns for 7 months, been a member, says, if you have to make heat transfer work magically different from observed reality to fit your Flerf view, you've already lost. Yeah, currently Flatsoid doesn't understand heat transfer. Because, just go and check out his video about refracted hand. The response to that's going to be fun. Brendan Cusketty for $50. Thank you, dude, so much. You've no idea how much this means, honestly. You need to charge. You are schooling him so bad. By the way, Iron Horse, stop embarrassing yourself and the rest of Australia. Yeah, Iron Horse or Flat Earth Aussie Jesus. Are you being dumb in the chat? I don't know. Sparky NG for $5. Sorry, go on.
So I joined McToon's channel. I paid him $3. Just saying, first time ever.
Good man.
Okay.
Sparky NJ for $5. Shane is a typical Flerf. He does a reset after every conversation. He probably forgot everything he heard from Professor Philip Bell.
That's absurd. All the videos I used from that interview, I made my own stuff, man. You should go check it out.
Cool. You know Professor Philip Bell crashed something into the moon, right?
No, he didn't mention that.
Yeah. He worked with the Indian Space Agency on their Changchang rocket, which did a hard landing on the moon last year.
That's funny.
By hard landing, I mean crashed into it. Yeah. Kalina's agility partner, member for 6 months, says, FTFE, your teaching has really improved. Great job. Thank you. I do like to think I've improved with what I do. I appreciate that. Tim Tully, $10. The highest clouds are about 53 miles up. For the sun to regularly be in front of the clouds, it would have to be quite a lot lower than that. SR-71 pilots might have noticed. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely would have. Sparky NJ's been a member for 31 months, says, I'm calling that wasn't the moon in a rocket video. In the rocket video, I think it was the moon. I've heard this claim before, and it is. It makes sense how it's visible. I think we got that one covered, didn't we, Shane?
Yeah, what you showed was possible, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
Sparky NJ's been a member for... Oh, no, just read that one. Caucasian Sensation for $5 says that rocket launch is a perfect demonstration of a pressure gradient with rapid visuals. Yep, that's exactly what I was saying. As the pressure gets less, the exhaust gets bigger. Jake the Surgeon for $5. I used to think the Inca stones had some validity until I looked into them myself. Do your own research to the best of your ability. Absolutely, Shane. And if you need help, never be afraid to ask.
Sure. I mean, MC2 made me look into the Mayan prediction of eclipses more closely than I ever have, right? When he said no, and I said, yeah. Well, wait a second. Nuh-uh. Uh-oh, never mind.
Good. Takashanis 1024 huffs. Your stream contains misinformation. I have reported it to Planawalk. That was Papua New Guinea, not New Zealand. Oh, God. Planawalk's going to be mad at me. Sorry, Planner.
Was it my shirt? Oh, okay.
Good. Guys, thank you so much for all the super chats, honestly. Concord327 for $2 says, for Shane, how many times have you watched The Matrix?
Oh, like 30. Actually, here you go, ready?
People hate me when I say this, but my favorite Matrix movie is the second one.
As long as it's not the fourth, right?
I still haven't seen the fourth.
The first one is definitely by far the best.
I think the second one's the best for me, but I also enjoy the third one, and people get really angry when I say that.
Good movie. I mean, documentary, sorry.
Yeah. Lizard Wizard for $10 Australian. Please show Shane some live streams of ISS spacewalk yesterday. Starts during the night, but later you see them manually launching mini-sats with the Earth in the background. Might be something interesting for you to look at there, Shane?
No. That doesn't interest me at all.
Okay, then. DL1 for $2. The beauty of science is that it is repeatable. Yeah, absolutely. Obi-Wan for $20 says, get out of the echo chamber of those who have a vested interest in Flat Earth and maybe open yourself up to the world of people in history that independently, with no vested interest, have tons of evidence of globe Earth. To be fair to Shane...
watching this guy.
To be fair to Shane, he hasn't stuck to echo chambers. He says he's watched my channel. He's come on here. He's been on MC Toons twice, 3 times maybe. You know, he's not sticking in the echo chambers. And for a flat earther, he seems relatively honest.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Everyone's intellectually dishonest. But no, I believe it. How does that mean I'm lying? Come on.
Geza, the random reviewer, been a member for 18 months, says Ranty and STST could convince him he's being conned. Ooh, might get both of them, actually. STST, Speak Truth, Seek Truth, is another ex-flat earther that was helped by conspiracy cats. James Weber for $5 says Flat Earth is based on a cult-like mentality, believing in something and ignoring facts and evidence that contradict their belief. It is sad and pathetic. Yeah, in my opinion, Shane, Flat Earth is a textbook cult.
We feel the same about the globe. Just saying.
All right,
I understand your perspective, but no one understands ours, right?
Well, we do, except the cult isn't brainwashing you, it's giving you the options. Tim Pryor, $5, no message. Then another one says, help him, Obi Craig Kenobi, you're his only hope. Star Wars references, always good.
That's a good one.
Chris Keller for $50 Canadian. Thank you very much, dude. I've been watching your content for years and want to show my thanks for the amazing content. I know things are slowing down. It's hard to get Flerfs on. I hope this helps you out. It does. You've no idea how much it helps. Obviously, super chats and stuff are the lifeblood of the channel and allow me to keep doing what I'm doing. And it has been a bit slower lately. So everything that you send super chats wise really, really, really helps. Obviously, I'm never going to charge what I do. I'm never going to say you have to watch super chats. I would still do this if I didn't get the super chats, but the super chats really, really do help and allow me to put out better and better content. Like my Adobe editing suite cost me 80 quid a month alone. So, you know, there's things that need to be paid for and the internet and everything. And So it means the world when you guys are helping me. You've honestly no idea. Plus, it's my birthday on Tuesday. So if you want to send a tip for my birthday, just saying. Monkey Cat Pat Pat, member for 21 months, says Shane can be brought back from the flat side. I'm going to try. Sarah Jones, £5. Get ranty on with him. That will fix him. I agree. AB Science, £1. No message. Thank you very much, dude. And Dale1 for $2. Asking about triangles and 10 to the negative 17. Oh, Shane. I've got a triangle with sides of 1, 1, and 1. What are the internal angles?
90, 90, 90.
Oh, Shane.
Come on, you can't give any other answer. Here's my curved triangle where it only exists on this globe proof. That triangle only exists on MC's blue ball. That he shows up.
Spherical triangles are a thing, but in a real in a straight line triangle, it's how many degrees in total in a triangle?
Yeah, 180. So 270 on the curved one. That's still a silly example.
But if you have sides of 1, 1, and 1, they're just straight lines. What are the internal angles? $180 divided by 3, 60, 60, 60. Is 10 to the negative 17 a positive or a negative number?
Who the hell knows? Scientific notation is stupid.
Understanding numbers is stupid.
Yeah, sure.
Okay then. Elbus UA for $10 Canadian says, from one chronic pain sufferer to another, happy birthday. Thank you very much. It means the world. Shane, I want to say thank you for taking the time to come on. Really appreciate it. It's been a decent conversation. Any final thoughts before we get off?
I think Cracker still wants to go at you at some point, but he keeps changing his mind. So if he ever gets around to it, I'll shoot.
Well, he is welcome to come on. I'm on holiday from Sunday for a week, but I'll be back on the 30th. I'm debating Howard on the 30th, so July's got 31 days, right? Yeah. I'm free on the 31st if you want to tell him that he's welcome to come then.
He might be more comfortable if you let me moderate it. If you're
yeah, no, I saw that on MC Tunes, and if that's what you feel comfortable doing, if that's what he feels comfortable doing, then absolutely, you can come on and moderate. Maybe to make it fair, I could have you and MC Tune co-moderate.
Sure.
So there's one for each side.
Yeah, no problem.
Sounds good to me.
Well, thanks, man.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you on YouTube?
No, because it'll be gone by the time you get there. So I exist on BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble, and I'll throw my link tree in the chat if you want. But they've already deleted one of those, so who the hell knows.
Fair enough. Well, thanks very much for coming on, Shane. I do appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. I should be back tomorrow with another debate against Dave Santiago, and then you'll have a couple of videos over the week while I'm away, and then a debate with Howard on the 30th when I get back, and maybe Cracker on the 31st. We'll see. Thank you everyone for watching. Love you all. Remember, stupidity is not right. Fight the flat earth. Fight the flat. 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 You know, a flat earther accidentally wrote this outro for me. He thought it was mocking me. I was like, that's banging. I'm having that.
I'll rock it. Yeah, I like that. I respect that.